Oh my gosh, Marissa, welcome to the show.
Yay, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about the elephant in the room. I love talking about this topic.
Okay, so I don't know if we fully prepared you for what you're walking into today. I have an opinion on this, but Joe has a very big opinion on this topic. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we really want to talk about human connection, especially in the age of AI. And so, Marissa, solopreneurs have such little time. And so AI is very intriguing for them, right? But what is your advice for bridging the gap between technological advances like ChatGPT or other and human connection? How can people find that balance?
Exactly. And that has been the question that everyone has. And as a copywriter, people ask me a lot about AI. And I've got my own opinions about AI too, but there's always change. There's always something that comes about. Right now, AI is the topic of conversation. Everybody is wondering how to use it. People are thinking that this will just produce more and more and more and more. And do we really need more of what? What is it producing? So when you look at AI, yes, it's evolving, it's learning. There's going to be more of it. It's not going away. It's going to be here. I was hoping, crossing my fingers, it would go away, but it's not.
Companies, just a passing fad, just like the internet was. Remember that back in the the internet's a passing fad.
I know, exactly. So it's here to stay, and we see many of the tools that we use, even Zoom, integrating an element of AI. Everybody is running the race to implement some type of level of AI in existing tools. So you see a lot of updates going on. So let's just say that AI has its place if you know why you're using it. More is not necessarily going to help you grow your business. When people say, well, I can create more social media posts. Well, what is it that you're trying to achieve with social media? What is the goal of social media? How are you measuring? Why are you there? Are you trying to attract leads? Are you trying to grow your email list? What's the purpose? And so when you begin to kind of reverse engineer and figure out why you're there, is AI a good solution? Now, granted, it can help with maybe ideation. It can help summarize maybe a transcript. It's all about what you input because it can't do it on its own. Even on LinkedIn, they have these LinkedIn collaboratives, but the origin of the content is human beings. And AI is never going to replace a human because it can't learn. It can't do what it needs to do without the human element. And so, yes, ideation, summarizing things that you're giving it clear boundaries. You can use it for some things to shorten the time that you're producing content, and maybe it could take an article and pull little snippets for you for social media, but you've got to originate it. The idea that it will take over and be like a little employee, it's more like an apprentice, one that needs a lot of supervision, and you've got to come in and review the work, and oftentimes you've got to correct the work. And as a copywriter, I see the pitfalls that it often just generates the same old content that's out there. And you mentioned ChatGPT. Keep in mind that ChatGPT, that data is from, it goes up to 2021. It's not new, fresh content, new points of view.
But weirdly, it is learning from me. My own ChatGPT account learns what I've put into it previously, even though it's not the same. I don't know what they call it, thread. But I had some fun. I asked it to write a biography of my daughter. Just gave her name to see what it knew, and it wrote this crazy biography using all of my past stuff it learned about me and putting it onto her. I also said she was born at the turn of the 20th century, which is weird. But anyway. It's so it is doing some learning now, which I was surprised to see, but it is limited in terms of things that happened in 2023 that you didn't tell it about.
Yeah, and who knows where it's headed, right? But right now, where we stand right now, while recording this podcast, we have to supervise it very well.
Well, what's so funny, you were talking about LinkedIn and social posts, is I feel like no matter how human it gets, the telltale sign for me that it is not a human is the strong use of emojis, They're everywhere.
The
and it's
word, what's the word?
Delve.
Delve?
Delve. He uses delve in everything. It's like a giveaway. But you're talking about pitfalls. What other pitfalls are you seeing? And what ways are what ways are people using it incorrectly that they should course correct on?
I think they're looking for a panacea, and it's not going to replace human connection. I'm really big on relationship marketing. We are in the people business. I don't care if you're selling a tool or coaching program. We're in the people business. And if people would say, oh, no, we're not, think of customer service. Any business that has poor customer service is not going to last very long, because I get frustrated with customer service isn't any good. When I have to put in some type of forum question or something, or I have to wait 5 days to get an answer. So we're in the people business. And I think some of the pitfalls is thinking that this is going to be the answer that's going to fix everything. I think if we pull back a little bit and look at what are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to get more prospects? Are we trying to get more leads? How are we going about it? And automating all of that is not necessarily the answer. We automate something that we've already begun and we see that it works, and we can automate parts of it, but only so that it gives us the time and the margin to have more human-to-human connections.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that. Joe is actually in a little bit of a debate with one of our team members who's one of the most intelligent people that we know. But what is it, Joe, that what is his take versus your take on all of this?
He basically has trained his own ChatGPT to understand his tone of voice and his approach, and it feels that he can create content that seems to come from him without having to actually write the content, just by prompting. And I'm like, yeah, no. And so I'm waiting to see an actual work product to see if it works or not. If he says me two and wrote one and didn't write the other one, and I can't tell the difference, I'm proven wrong. But so far, I am not convinced that you want to be generating content. I mean, to one thing to have you generate an outline or something that you heavily edit, but we'll see.
And again, if you think about an article, right? And I've published articles, right? I'm going to be publishing articles for another magazine here soon. But when you think of an article, you want to make sure that you explain it well. Oftentimes you need maybe an illustration, maybe some statistics, and storytelling. The whole thing is that emotional connection is not going away. That is really at the heart of our marketing. Marketing is simply earning trust, and we need to connect emotionally with people. Even the buying process, it's an emotional decision that's backed up with logic. So when people are looking at something or reading something online, you have to connect emotionally. AI can't do that. So if you just want something like a quick post, or you want something that you don't really care about and you want to put it out there, sure, it can create these little snippets for you, all day long. But if you're writing an article, it has to be a little bit meatier. It has to have some insight. It has to have wisdom, right? It has to have a little bit of you and your personality, because that differentiates you from others. And I don't know that you can put that much input into it. I mean, if you did, that's all you could be doing is writing, all the data that you're going to put into it so it learns. Why not just write the whole thing yourself anyway? I mean, you're in the middle of doing it, might as well write it up. And you could use AI to say, what have I missed? But you got to give it a structure. You have to give it an example. You have to give it some kind of outline that this is what you want to cover. If it's SEO, then you got to go into Google and find out what Google likes and put that in there. It's a lot of work, but you could do that if you wanted to. But sometimes it's just best to lead by the heart and really understand your audience and how can I emotionally connect with them? How can I serve them today? And not so much think of the tool or the head, but lead from the heart, and you're going to connect with people.
It's so funny, Joe and I have fallen into the trap of relying on ChatGPT to do some of the content that I usually do. And Joe and I were having one of our weekly status calls one day, and he was like, Carly, you're like an emotional person. Like some say I have a sense of humor. And he's like, you need to be using your personality in what you're writing. And it was like, oh gosh, I have fallen into the ChatGPT trap. And even though I feel like I tweak it to make it sound like my own voice, At the end of the day, it's not. And so I would just say to solopreneurs and people who are really strapped for time, like, you might get into like kind of a hamster wheel of wanting to use it for everything. And you really need to take a step back and be like, wait, my human connection, my personality are far more important than me getting this done in the next 5 minutes.
Right. Checking it off the list. And it's so true. And you have to look, if you're that busy as a solopreneur, and I'm a solopreneur, right? I only have 2 people on my team, my bookkeeper, CPA, and then my web guy. But you have to realize, if you're that busy, what are you busy doing? What is it that you're doing? Because really, business is the process of prospecting and selling. And so you have to be very strategic and very selective on what you're going to do. And you have to have systems in place and figure out what's going to be your core content to share your wisdom, the insights that you have. Is it going to be a podcast? Is it going to be writing articles? And then you have to repurpose, and you have to get really good at repurposing the content, that topic that you have, and be able to deliver it in different ways and have a system or workflow that helps you. So it's not just creating more and more and more and more. It's like shooting arrows at, there's no dartboard. There's no place to shoot it to. You're just shooting these arrows, hoping that something will land. And we all know the build it and they will come just doesn't work. And so even the website, you have to make sure that organic traffic, when they get there, how many are coming there? Go deep. So many people are trying to go wide and hope that something sticks. Pick one strategy and go deep. Go deep in it. What are you doing on your website? What happens when organic traffic comes? What do they see? Do they understand what it is that you do? And see if you can get that as close to what you want it to do, and then continue on with that. And then call to actions, the interactions that you have. If you are on social media, how do you interact? What's the purpose of it? I don't look at vanity numbers or algorithms or any of that. That drives me absolutely insane. I've seen too many of my clients burn out thinking they have to post every single day. And why? What's gone on? I've had clients that came on to me, and as I was asking them questions, they were spending ad money for 9 months. And I said, well, how many leads did you get? Not one. How many sales? Not one. I mean, that's sad. But they believe this because people have told them you got to do it, and eventually it'll come. And so you have to look at what's keeping you so busy. What are you doing? What is the best strategy for you to create content, the workflow, the repurposing, and it all needs to lead to your products and services. You need to reverse engineer that so it all goes. And if AI can help you shorten that process in some way, by all means. But to just have it to create more and exhaust yourselves, I don't recommend that. And I've seen too many people just totally burn out. And that's so sad.
One of the questions is, what if you're using AI to put out social posts that you're not even touching? What are you saying? What do you do? What is the point of the post? So then all of a sudden it's like just, that old story of just write a blog, it doesn't matter what it says back in the day, which people then said, that doesn't work anymore. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
If you're putting out crap, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to notice it. Nobody's going to, interact. So what are you buying by using the AI to generate just, chaff instead of wheat?
That is such a great point. I love that, because I tell people, look, if you're having a day that life happened and you're super busy and you normally post, say, 3 times a week, and you can't for a specific day because of something, don't worry about it. It's better not to. And then when you're fresh and you can create something of value, because what you're doing is you're serving people. And we don't want to serve people with something that's like garbage. We want to serve them with something that has value. And chances are, other people that will see it a few days later or a week later will receive the value as well. And so we're always trying to earn the trust and the respect to be in their lives, because there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of things that they can be doing. And the fact that they're even looking at our post or reading it is really a privilege, and it's an honor that they're doing that. And we want to provide the best that we can. At least that's my philosophy.
Well, and I just want to reiterate. So for solopreneurs who are starting out, a lot of times, and this is what we're trying to change with Lifestar, but a lot of times they'll go to like entrepreneur sites to see what they should be doing. And entrepreneurs, a lot of times, are trying to grow their company into multi-employee companies. and these huge businesses where they need to think about SEO and generating a ton of content or lead magnets or everything. But a lot of solopreneurs, they only need 4 or 5 clients to get through. And obviously you always want that pipeline, but it's like, is generating all of this content necessary, or should you be using ChatGPT to like brainstorm icebreaker ideas for a networking event where you can meet people in person and get like 2 clients that way? I think solopreneurs have to think about running their business in a different way than the standard entrepreneur. And because of that, use ChatGPT in a different way because they don't need all that content that traditional entrepreneurs might.
Exactly. I think the best thing to do, because there's probably different types of businesses represented. There could be service providers, coaches. I'm not sure exactly. Depending on the industry and the market, you need to find first where your audience is. And that's a given. Most people know that. And not just be everywhere, but be on a platform that you know your audience is there. And then from there, you want to, like I said earlier, you want to think of that workflow, that process that you're going to have, and how is that going to work? So much of our business is really thinking and planning and writing down things, just taking white erase boards or just a blank piece of paper and figuring out the process, how you're going to bring people in and what is that need, because it's all about emotional connection. And then we can do things that copywriters know as pattern interrupt, which is totally different. It's creative. It's something that will stop the scroll that ChatGPT may not, with the same words it uses, like unpack and some of the others that you said, you can tell that ChatGPT created it. Now, we can't be so automated that we're not keeping our finger on the pulse of the market. As I said, ChatGPT, the information goes up to 2021. What happened in 2020? It was a totally different mindset for everyone. It's totally different. And so when you think about that, human behavior, when you think about human behavior and you think of emotional connection, I love Maslow's hierarchy of needs because it's such a great classic example of what happened in 2020 when marketers were still marketing the same way. And all of a sudden they realized, oh, wow, we need to pivot. We need to market. Our messaging needs to be different now because people's minds were not where they were before. In Maslow's hierarchy of need, it starts with the physiological needs like the food and shelter. Then it goes on to safety and security, which is jobs. And a lot of people, the things that they needed like health and employment, some people lost their jobs, right? And there was a lot of things with health issues and love and belonging. They're worried about their families and friends. And so there was all of these things happening. And even if they were at the point of self-actualization, which is more of the purpose and meaning and potential, and they're investing in themselves, all of a sudden they're down to safety and security. So if you're marketing the same way, you're missing the mark. Totally. Because they're not there anymore. So understanding your market is so key, and ChatGPT won't understand your market unless you tell it to. So we need to go back to the basics and always keep our finger on the pulse of the market because it changes. That's why real estate agents say it's a buyer's market or it's a seller's market because the market changes. And I think if we just pull back and don't feel like we have to do all these other things and figure out what works for our business, what makes sense, we're going to be on more calls, one-on-one calls with people. Sometimes it's an avoidance to have those conversations with people on Zoom or a phone call to tell them, hey, I have the solution for you. I can help you reach this transformation and I have a program for you. But some people avoid and get busy with other things because they don't want to have those type of quote unquote sales conversations. And a lot of times that's the best way to really understand your market, understand what the problems they're facing, maybe even tweak our messaging and make more sales. And like you said, sometimes you don't need a lot of sales to make those goals that you have.
Oh, I'm so happy you brought up the hierarchy because I feel like at the end of the day, people just need to get to the basics of human connection. Like you were saying, like, forget about AI. Like you said, it could be a good supplement, but it's just so important just to get back to who is your audience? What do they need? How do you solve their problem? It's as simple as that. And AI, like you said, AI can assist, but it's not the end all. So I'm so glad you brought it back to the basics because people need to think through that, reverse engineer like you've been saying. And I just think that's a really good point.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's important. And in copywriting, it's all about, it really is emotional connection. And one of the best things that you can do that AI can't is storytelling. That's why testimonials, customer reviews are so important, because it's storytelling. Nobody can argue with a story. And when you just take something and you create a metaphor or a story, and it doesn't have to be long, 3 sentences, that's going to connect with people, because you're connecting at a subconscious level, not a conscious level. And that's what copywriters do. That's why it's all about finding that not only the external problem, but what's the internal problem going on, because this external need hasn't been satisfied yet. And that's why copywriters write copy to not only address the conscious mind, but the subconscious mind. And that's why people say the fear of missing out and all those things are implied, right? But we want to understand our market so much and not manipulate them, but understand that emotional connection is huge. So if you don't know anything about copywriting, if you don't know anything about how to get your message out there, use stories, because stories will bridge the gap because of that emotional connection. And that's something that AI can't do. It can't create those stories for you.
A lot of people, me included, I was a terrible salesperson back in the day. Took the trouble to study it because I was so bad. And a lot of people, including me, didn't realize, and people don't still realize, that people don't buy for logical reasons typically. Typically, they're buying for emotional reasons and justifying the purchase with logical reasons, hence the number of expensive sports cars that are not particularly practical in New England that still exist in New England for some reason, right? You're better off with an SUV with snow tires, but a lot of people have these, little sporty cars that can only drive 6 months out of the year because, the emotion. But they'll come up with good logical reasons after the fact to justify it.
Right, exactly. And we're always talking about benefits because people are wondering, how's this going to benefit me? So we're always talking about benefits, and we can't get away from that, because that is at the heart of our marketing. Our messaging is communicating that so they understand, because there's a lot of competition out there. Now, you can use AI for some things, like I mentioned earlier, ideation, summarizing things, but it needs a lot of your input. I use an AI tool for podcast show notes, but it's taking the actual show and it's really organizing it in a way so that I can take it and still have to tweak it and write things and put it in my own voice, but at least I'm not starting with a blank screen, and that saves me some time. But later on, maybe AI will be better, but I'll tell you, it's not going to be able to tell those wonderful stories that you can tell even in a short post or in an article. It's not going to replace that, or even on a sales page. So a sales page is the same thing. And for those of you that maybe are listening and wondering, well, I don't know anything about copywriting. Yeah, I can tell stories. If you just get on one-on-one calls with people and you start talking to people and you take random acts of kindness and you start reaching out and you start building a network and you start hearing what the problems are, you're going to have opportunities to offer your products and services. And you know what? I'm a copywriter, and I'll tell you right now, you don't need a sales page. All you need are those calls, and you need just a Stripe account and send them an invoice and done deal. I mean, that's as easy as you can do it.
Joey keeps saying we need to get one of those boards that has like the pre-recorded sounds, like an applause sound or something. So maybe for Christmas or something next year, we can get that for each other for the podcast.
Maybe ChatGPT can do it for us.
Exactly. Oh, Marisa, it's so funny because we knew that we were going to be talking about human connection today and AI, but we didn't necessarily know which side you would be on with that. And suffice to say, we agree with everything you said. And you just said it so succinctly. So I just very much appreciate your take on all of this today. And I think you'll help people find a lot of success with what you said. So we ask all of our guests this: what is your favorite quote about success?
I will have to say that success is not a destination and it is not your identity. And I'm saying this myself. I do have a quote for you, but I want you to know that it's not a destination and it's not your identity. Success, it's those decisions that you make every day, and often they're decisions of courage to get you to a destination. Every day you can be successful. But my favorite quote is from Rick Warren, Purpose-Driven Life. It's not about you. Serve people well, connect with people, try to understand and listen well, and you're going to be able to reach more people.
Perfect. Well said. Well, Marisa, if people want to find out more about you, where can they find you?
I would love for them to listen to the podcast. If they'd like to go to marisashadrick.com/listen, I will send them an email. If they want a copy critique, we do those live on the podcast. They get my Monday marketing memo every Monday, a short, quick read on marketing. And if they want to be on my podcast, they'll also find out how to do that. So that would be a great way to start. They'll have my LinkedIn profile there and we can connect.
Great. And then all of that will be in the show notes. Sounds like a slam dunk to me. Well, Marisa, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We thoroughly enjoyed it. And listeners, as always, we would love that 5-star review, the comment, the subscribe, the share, anything you want to do to make sure that we can keep doing this moving forward. We would very much appreciate it because we love doing it. We'll see you next week on The Aspiring Solopreneur. Have a great day.
Thanks so much.